Hello everybody, quick video. So if you saw recently, I took 7 grams of mushrooms, and only a week before that I took 7 grams of mushrooms as well. I had some of the most like interconnected, holistic, profound realizations on the shrooms. I'm not here to tell you about the trips, but well, people are angry at me. I'm not going to give you a super lecture, but in short, basically, people don't understand psychedelics. And this has been a recurring thing for a long time, where it's like, even Hamza just posted about psychedelics healing trauma. What I'm saying, basically, is there is a huge stigma and injustice towards psychedelics, especially as they're illegal. And no one knows what they are, no one cares to know what they are, and there's so much ignorance, but the point is it hurts a lot in terms of when they're so central to you. They've done so much for me, they've given me my whole life back. I was fucking miserable for years, and they just recharge your soul, they tell you everything you need to know. You're meant to be in a codependent, symbiotic relationship with these plants, even weed, potentially. Like, it's like we have superfoods, but then we've neglected these other super plants. And I'm not saying they're for everyone, but what the main point of this video is, I am going to pursue, and I need your help most likely, is I'm going to make a catalogue of undeniable psychedelic stigma paradigm shift, where people like my family hate on me with no love in terms of like, when I've been trying to heal myself for so long, because I was so depressed, and they knew this for a long time, and I got really into psychedelics, and really the way that my family handled what happened to me was it was really fucking brutal. I can't lie. I know I wasn't perfect, and I went off the deep end a bit with the psychedelics and that, but I was just trying to heal myself, and I was really getting into spirituality, and it came from deep depression. And when I voiced my depression to family, they didn't really have an awful lot to say. They're just like, oh, like, you know, how can you be depressed? I mean, you're in the first world, you know, just be grateful. And I get it, and they're not wrong to an extent. But at the same time, like, there's reasons for these neuroses and maybe attention seeking. Like when I was really young in school, secondary school, and that. I didn't want to dive into this exactly, but I've always, like, I used to like attention seek when I was like really young, in like year 9 or some shit. In a sense, like I would cut myself, and in a sense like do it visibly, because it was like a cry for help, because I just wanted someone to, like, I didn't know how. It's like when you're really depressed, and like I was fucking mentally ill, like a lot, and psychedelics like make you realize that actually no, you're not, and these are normal responses because of trauma and things. But it's like, oh, why attention seeking? And then the way I got it is like, oh, I was attention seeking, so stop attention seeking, you know? Like, what's wrong with you? Why are you doing that? You just wanted to, it's like, yeah, but why do I want attention? Why did I have this strength? Like, and I get it, cutting yourself is stupid, I know. But at the same time, like, oh, there was something really wrong with me, and I wanted the attention. I wanted people to know that there was something wrong, because there was. And when you're in these states, you can't even speak. It's like you're just like, am I the only one I know? Reaching my words behind my face and above my throat. Shadows will scream that I'm alone, alone, alone. It goes deep. But anyway, the point is, I'm going to make an extensive playlist and all categories and deep dives on everything. I'm going to make extensive lectures, and it's going to be about a paradigm shift, because what happened is I've recently had family. They don't show me any love. There's no compassion, and this is something I never get. But they do show me love, of course, and I'm so grateful. And even psychedelics, they made me realize how grateful I am for my childhood and everything that my parents have done for me. I get it. So I'm not angry because they don't know what they do, and it's ignorance. And I wish I could enlighten them, and I wish they were more open-minded. So this is why I'm going to make like a solid, like undeniable, clearly, and I'm going to fill it with everything every public intellectual has ever said about psychedelics. Because the people, like, I say to my family, I'm like, if you would only do a fucking fragment of research, like, you clearly care about me, because it's like tearing you apart, because like, it was like when I was doing the mushrooms, because you really didn't want me to do them and that, but they won't do a fucking speck of research into like the legitimacy and the other cultures and shit like this, to try and like reach a common ground. And I've been ignorant in the past. I was more ideological, but it's been ages now, and like, they still, like, I don't understand, like, I didn't get treated right. Like, I literally I was in my own flat. It was in my dad's name, technically. But it was in my own flat. I was paying the rent for the most part. So it's a bit, like, iffy. But at the same time, like, it was just, like, I would take mushrooms, and me and my dad had an agreement that I wouldn't. while I was in this flat alone, because he was concerned about the things I was saying about coming out with things about like being God and shit, just talking about on YouTube, or like the awakening and shit like this. He said that he would kick Leo Gura's head in. So I was listening to him a lot. But the point is like there was so much anger where like I would get to a point where I'd take them anyway because they're medicine and these are going to be a part of my identity. So if I can't take mushrooms, maybe I shouldn't have took them in this flat, even though I was alone. And it's the same. This is the fucking stupid thing, and everyone knows this. I didn't mean to go on a super rant here, but it's like when you make them illegal and make them really difficult to do, all I'm going to do is avoid being in a safe place, and you can't have like a trained person to be there with you because. You know what I mean? It's like you get into all sorts of stupid things. Alan Watts talks about this. It's like you have to do them in an alleyway or some shit. That's what you're enforcing essentially. But I take them at home. I go. I won't like But like but it would be so healing and like exactly what I need. Like, and it's so good. And I was saying this to my mother recently that like then I might say something about it on like my YouTube, like, oh yeah, I had a trip, it was really good for me, like, because this is my passion as well, and they just want me to stop this passion. I don't know like what and then look at what everyone else does. They're telling me like, oh, I wish you wouldn't do the YouTube and that. It's like, this is what I love in reality. Don't you understand? I love the psychedelics. I love being this kind of a voice, and people know what I'm on about, and people are starving for voices of similar nature to make this kind of interconnected, holistic community of people to seek truth, and we share and mix perspectives. But they just like, they're so like myopic and ignorant and closed-minded, and it's like they haven't respected my sovereignty as an individual. That I found like I'm not just like, and everyone's just been a wage slave their whole life, and I've just got like kind of thrown into this system as well. I didn't really know I was alive. I was very ignorant when I was younger, very toxic and insecure, and then I got very depressed and discontent with my circumstances as I got into wage slavery, and I was fed sugar and I was eating poison because I gave it to myself a lot because I didn't know anything about health, etc. But all I would get was anger, and it's like the anger confuses me because I would take the mushrooms and I get, you don't love me. You said you wouldn't take them, and I'm like, yeah, but it's just like an abstract rule. Like I get it, I agreed to it, but I almost like I need it because of how like crushed I am and shit. And fuck you, like you don't love me. Like the shit I was getting, it was insane, man. And I'm like, I do love you. Like what a crazy fucking conclusion to jump to. And it was like it's this fucking ignorant, like I don't mean to sound so like ignorant the way I'm talking, but it's like it makes me angry because like it hurt me a lot and I was really confused and I ended up blaming my fucking self for ages. And it was me to an extent. But also like I don't know, man, like I was trying so like what do you I'm not doing it to hurt you. Like why do you think yeah, there's quite a bit of like trauma around how I got kicked out and the way it went down and the way that my family, like the way that they look at me and shit, like they just look at me like I'm a fucking, like when I'm trying to use these plant medicines to like dig up trauma and that, they just think you're off your head on mushrooms. I told you to stop doing them. Stop doing them. Get a job. It's like you haven't done anything yourself. For fuck off. I'm trying to heal myself because I was so fucked up because of many things. I take responsibility ultimately. I don't want to be a victim. I get it, and I'm learning all the time. And I'm always trying to reflect and like I'm being introspective. So like I'm trying to see how can I take responsibility? How am I being immature? And I'll get there eventually. But I came from the darkest depths for years of terrible health and like just fucking psychosis and that because I was smoking this fucking shit weed on the streets that like just fucked my brain up when I was really young and smoking tobacco and that, and everyone around me was smoking tobacco. Some of my family was in and out of prison. I was moving around, but my parents' relationships and shit were extremely turbulent. Everyone's mental health was so bad for ages, and then I find these plants that revolutionize my understanding of reality and everything. And when I do them, they oh yeah, okay, I understand reality. I understand. Like, I'm so empowered right now, for months. Because I'm grounding, I'm in the sun, and the mushrooms as well. The spiritual awakening is really like becoming holistic and integrated to such an extent where I'm finally finding myself and I understand myself, and I'm not going to apologize to you for that. So the people that are angry at me, like I made a video crying because people hate me because I take mushrooms. That is basically how it is. I get so much abuse off of people because I take mushrooms. Obviously, how has that come to be the case? Obviously, like they don't like what they see on my YouTube channel, but they won't even really look at it or be open-minded. They just go, oh, I don't want to see it. And yeah, obviously I must have like programmed them with like, so like that I made them worry. But like the worry was like the reason I made them worry, and I was like purging my demons essentially on these medicines, which is what they do, is like you just go through it and now it's gone. I've got that shit out of me. And it's hard for you to understand if you don't know what I'm on about. But basically, you hold loads of tears in your body and shit that you can release through breathwork practices and psychedelics. But they don't really know that. Instead, they just operate in a robotic mode with neuroses. But like, if you took like loads of mushrooms and you release and purge all these demons, you're like, oh, no wonder I was acting this way, because I was so caught up in this shit that I never dealt with. Because it literally reveals your subconscious mind, and you like swim through your past, your memories, your traumas, and you deal with them in the present moment in a very holistic, beautiful way, and they heal you. But then people, like, even though I may have made mistakes in the past, and I'm obviously not perfect in a lot of ways, but I'm only trying, and love is my fuel. I'm not like... And I get how people can be worried, but it's like the not really, because I'm more worried about everybody else, because everyone else is like getting injections like forced by the government, all sort of synthetic medication, and everyone's getting disease, and like, and the psychedelics revolutionized the whole paradigm in every different dimension. I would see, what did my nan just comment? I bet, I posted something. Hamza just Hamza posted about psychedelics. Oh, I can't even see it at the minute. But he said, Hamza, a very grounded Western personal development YouTuber, is starting to talk more about psychedelics. And this is what I'm talking about. It's like, they are medicine. But people just think they're like, it's cocaine. And then, so when I take it, they think I'm just on drugs. And then I'm like, sugar is a much harder, much more harmful drug. Like, obviously, it won't send you into infinity, but it's a stimulant, same nature. Sugar is much more in the same dimension as cocaine compared to shrooms and psychedelics. Psychedelics are not fucking drugs, they're plants. Obviously they are drugs, but guess what else is a drug? Everything's a drug technically, but people are just like, when I say that, they're like, oh, whatever. And then there's anger, and then I'm hurt. My ego is hurt. I know it's just a game and an act, and it's just an illusion, but it's like, I want to be loved, and I want people to understand that what I'm doing is my passion and what I love. And then, like, when all I get is I can have a trip, and I can, like, oh my god, wow, finally, like, I'm realizing everything, I'm rejuvenated. Oh, I understand my depression in the past. I dealt with this trauma. Brilliant. Wow, look how beautiful nature is. Oh, I'm so lucky to be alive. And then my family will come home, and they've heard I've done mushrooms, and they'll go, are you fucking serious? You need to make a decision now. You got kicked out of your flat. Now it's like... And I understand there's nuances to it. I can't do it wherever I want, around whoever I want. You've got to be respectful. So I could be better in a lot of ways, but I think it's not just me. I'm working on myself, trying to be better, more respectful, trying to be higher integrity, etc. But I would also really appreciate it if people, because I'm so done with this, and if people are going to continue to be myopic and ignorant and completely disregard me as a fucking human being. I understand that psychedelics are not inherently always truth. Like, I mean, I don't know. I believe in them. I believe they're sacred medicines. People have known them about thousands of years. They just grow naturally on fields all around forever. And you can just pick a mushroom. Like my mate who I met the other day, he found a mushroom on his granddad's farm, and he ate them, and then he went through traumas about his ex-girlfriend and things, and he comes out feeling rejuvenated. And there's countless, look at ayahuasca ceremony testimonials. And this is the playlist and everything that I'm going to make, is I'm going to make a crazy psychedelic stigma course, lectures, full-blown. If you want to think anything you want about psychedelics, then if in terms of the psychedelic stigma, I'm going to be a pioneer in this field, and I'm going to be a pioneer for all sorts of things. I feel, because I feel like I have a very particular type of intelligence that is probably rare. I don't see this interconnected, holistic nuancedness amongst many people. Not many people talk about this stuff, and it's at the core of my interest. So I'm only 19, so I'm going to evolve a lot. Like, when I started my channel, yeah, I was like, about 2 years ago. The reason why people were kind of scared is because I started taking mushrooms, and I was thinking about the spirituality in the background for years. But when I really started, after about on my like 30th trip, my 25th trip, after about a year or so of doing mushrooms, I had such an empowering experience on a hill. I was looking out, I was going, wow, I've completely, like, they've cured my addictions. Check out Derek Bearsey. I've done a podcast with him. He talks a lot about psychedelics. They cured his addictions. They say psychedelics will absolutely cure like every addiction. It is insane. Not to mention the physical benefits. They're not actually toxic to you. They grow your brain and increase neuroplasticity, like how you can learn quicker, like when you were a child. And this is why my intelligence is peculiar, and the reason why I can talk the way I can talk, and Terence McKenna can talk the way he can talk, is because psychedelics are like the pinnacle of superfoods, and they're illegal, and I'm done with it. So there will be a mass awakening and a revolution in terms of this culture, and I can understand how these ideas make people and like make people on the fence about it and think, oh, what do you mean mass awakening? It sounds kind of booky to me, and I get it. Some people, like, I meet some spiritual people, and they seem like pretty fucked. But I don't know, it's a journey. You evolve a lot of it's to do with age and maturity. You get it eventually through time is the teacher. But yeah, it's I didn't mean to do a super rant here, but yeah, so originally 2 years ago I had that super empowering trip on the hill, and at that point I went, right, well, no, actually, when I started my YouTube channel, here's how it started. So I'd been taking psychedelics for like a year. I've always been doing YouTube since I was really young, making hacking videos, Rubik's Cubes, video games. And then I'd done like loads of psychedelics when I was like 16, and I had some hell trips, and I was purging a lot of demons, etc. Like, I wasn't prepared to do them when I was that young. I was also very mentally fucked though. Like, if you listen to my old music, check out my album Toxic. That was before I ever done any psychedelics. You can hear it in my fucking voice. I know that I'm just like being ungrateful or whatever the way I'm talking. It's like XXX Tentacion vibes, nearly same sort of like frequency. And then I take the psychedelics, and they reveal to me like how fucked my mind is. And that is why Leo Gura says the reason why you have bad trips is because your mind is out of control. That wasn't Leo Gura, actually, that was Psych Substance. And they make you check yourself, and they're designed to do this. They're like a crazy mental tool. But yeah, I took about 4.5 grams one night, after I hadn't done them for like nearly a year, and I was very happy with my life and the way it was going and my job and everything. And then I took these shrooms. It was my very first video I made, and then I was listening to a lecture on Terence McKenna as well, talking about shrooms in general. It was called like. It was like his craziest experiences, like the strangest tales, the weirdest tales by We Plants Are Happy Plants. And in the midst of that, like, there was this other thing that penetrated. Like, even though I was focused on this lecture, there was this thing that was like, hold on a minute. I hate my life. I realized that I'm trapped. Like, I thought I liked my job. And a trip before that on LSD that I did test, I was like, well, after I realized, like, I saw nature, it's so beautiful, I was like, well, what am I going to do now? Just go to work and, like, you know, tick over? I was like, yeah, might as well. And then I took these shrooms and I went into this trance, and I was like, I'm knackered. I work like 6 days a week, full blast, like 9.5 hours a day, and not including the traversing back and forth. And I was like, this is not a life worth living. And I was so like angry. I was like, I'm fucking trapped. And I was angry at myself because it was like I just woken up. I never realized I was really alive going through school. I just like was going through the motions, avoiding suffering, pursuing pleasure, and my family didn't give me an awful lot of direction. Some of them were in and out of prison and that, and there was like drugs around and things, and I was getting fed like sugar and all that. And I'm grateful. I had overall, it was a fucking magical childhood, and I loved it. But yeah, I took these substances, and I was like, I don't want this life. Like, but it was because people don't like that. Most people want to be comfortable. They don't want people to speak up. and critically think about things that make them uncomfortable, in a sense. Often because it threatens their identity. But there's many nuances to it. But yeah. And then I've had other trips where I'm like, yeah, I'm like I say, I'm super empowered, and I upload these on YouTube, and then people get concerned because I start saying things like infinite consciousness. And this is why people don't like them, because I start talking about all this metaphysical shit, and people just like hate what they can't understand. But yeah, I didn't mean to do a super lecture there, but I hope you understand. It's important. This is, as you can tell here, this got me going. This is a very core topic I could talk about for a long time, because all I've had is a whole culture that completely rejects the way I am. If it wasn't for YouTube and these public intellectuals, people hate on YouTube, bruv. It's like literally infinite knowledge on here. Like you, if I read books, oh, I look intelligent, do I? But because it's visually on YouTube, all of it, like I don't watch KSI and fucking TGF. I watch Alan Watts, like a 3-hour lecture on how nature is codependence, and codependence with these plants is what we've lost, and that is why everything's going downhill. Because Terence McKenna will talk about how the ego structure can rise when you don't have these mushrooms, etc. And the ego structure is fundamentally what is causing conflict, and what is dividing everyone. And it goes deep. I'm not right about anything, everything. I'm sure I'll look back at this and think, oh, I could have done better, I could have articulated it better, but I've had it for years. And yeah, and if it wasn't for these people on the internet that understood what I was going on about, spiritual communities, etc., I was a lone wolf in the flesh for fucking ages. Now, just yesterday, I met a very spiritual person. And finally, I'm meeting like my tribe in a sense. But another reason why people are concerned about them, and this is one of the main points. So I made a video. My friend killed himself on psilocybin magic mushrooms. He took a 3.5 and he seemingly realized some shit, and he killed himself there and then, quite brutally, on a whim. The last thing he said is, "When I do this, I will become me." It was very existential. Before this, he was going through what he deemed an awakening. But this is the thing, is that this is what I'm talking about, and this is why people don't like him. It's like, when I say you hold tears within your body and shit, and your psychology and your subconscious, is when you get to them, like somebody, he said like, oh, I think I realized that my dad, not me, but he said, I think I realized my dad like molested me when I was a kid or some shit. And I'm not saying this, don't take it out of context, you twat. So it's like you can have realizations, and you're like, and you like, it can be too much, and you can want to kill yourself, because that's the name of the fucking game. It gets deep sometimes. And I've had 2 trips where I get locked into hell, and I'm like, I must kill myself. But that guy who killed himself, he had like psychosis years before, and he was addicted. He was literally on the verge of death. And he was a very extreme person anyway. He got into the Kabbalion and Jiu-Jitsu, etc. But yeah, it's just... But then again, like Alan Watts will say, like, people are like, oh my god, he killed himself, that's horrible. Well, I'm not, like, don't blame me. I never advocate it, but why can I not kill myself? I can. It's my choice. You can check out. There's no, like, you know what I mean? It's not, like, if he didn't really ask to be here, whatever, if he wants to, because the way that we perceive it is that he wanted to transcend the flesh. And I don't know if that is definitely the case, but I hope he got to where he wanted to get to, if he even exists, and no one can tell him to stay. And then people are like, oh my god, mushroom, like, this is the stupidest view ever, and I've got this from so many people. People think mushrooms are bad because somebody took mushrooms and decided to take their life while tripping. You don't, like, I know how it sounds, but it's because you're just thick. That's why you think that. It's because you're just, like, so, like, you haven't thought about shit. It's not like you don't need to survive. You don't have to just keep going, because then it's just like a grueling like, I've thought about suicide a lot. I won't do it now, because I'm very excited to pursue this life. But at the same time, I've thought in the past, why should I go through this long process of self-deception and growth when I could just skip to the Godhead? And that's, I'm pretty sure, what my mate did. And I don't care what you have to say about that. I mean, I don't want to be ignorant, and like, obviously I have so much compassion to the family and everything. Fuck me, I would never advocate it. I'm literally about to run out of storage. But yeah, I hope I made that clear. Check the description. I'm going to make extensive links. Just search psychedelic stigma. There's so much shit out there, and this is the psychedelic revolution, the information revolution. My name is Oxsn, Oxsn, or Baron Davidson. I hope you can support me. I love you. Goodbye.